looking out, keep getting clout. This is what it's about. We love teaching. There is no time. They programmed your mind. Construction blind. We not sleeping. Come join the love, come join the fun, and call it education. Let's get profound. Let's uncover all of the deep. Arcane things. Good looking out. Good looking out. Good looking out with no shoot out. Come join the love, come join the fun, and call it education. Let's get profound. Let's uncover all of the deep. Arcane things. Good looking out. Good looking out. Good looking out with no shoot out. Good looking out. Good looking out. Good looking out with no shoot out. Diego, we gon' go. Diego, we gon' go. Diego, we gon' go. With no so let's go. We going to go. With no so let's go. 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 Let's go.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Hotep. Namaste. Jumbo. Ashe. Yatahe. Shalom. Shalom. All the greetings of love and light to the darkest minds of the light. Now to the dimwits. To the darkest minds of the light. I am Napashada. Yes, I'm still continuing this series. I appreciate people who do their research, who take the time to study, if you're interested at all in this type of information, in religion, the beginning of spirituality systems, or I should say spiritual systems, and the Bible, and all the other stuff, polytheism. How did Israel progress into monotheism, so-called monotheism? Because we know that they are monolatrous. They're not monotheistic. They never were. Is there prohibition in the Torah saying don't worship other gods? Yes. We know that because the Torah from Exodus and Moses, right? However, the region that Israelites lived in was a region, I always do that, region, because I want to say regent for some reason. Region was an area of multiculturalism. All right, I know it's late, but it's not late for everybody. It's early somewhere. So I'm going to just continue putting these out. And today, this might not be as interesting to some people because I'm going to be reading basically a paper. And it's very informative. Many Bible scholars know and there's a consensus that the Bible, big newsflash, has been changed over the years, manipulated, things taken out, things put in, things rearranged for certain agenda, certain purposes, certain reasons, right? Who doesn't know that? Does that mean that I don't respect the Bible? And there's a lot in the Bible that I subscribe to, especially the Gospels. No, that doesn't mean that at all. However, it's important to show the true foundation and the true origin of the religion of Israel, the spiritual practices So I'm doing this series. And all right, hit the like button, share it if you'd like. Don't forget to get your tickets for the debate. Let's get into this. I'm going to be reading this paper, like I said, but there are several scholars. I'll name some, in the paper that I read. And you will be able to find out as we go over a period of time who these, at least some of the most popular ones are. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Let's get this paper up here. Uh, 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 okay, let's read this. Oh, by the way, this is about JezeBAAL. I've done lessons many times over the years about JezeBAAL. Was she really this wicked, the worst person that has ever existed? Of course not. Of course not. I've shown you before actual scripture comparing her to other people in the Bible, especially to David, which, by the way, one of the stories in First Kings, the story of Naboth specifically, mirrors the story of David and his adultery with the wife of Uriah. However, before I get to all that fun stuff, I'm going to do this fun stuff. See, this part is fun for me, but it might not be fun for everybody. But we have to look at this paper. We're going to look at this paper, okay? Yes, it says Jesuit School of Theology. Don't start doing back tucks to those who might, okay? The author, Conrad Candleman Bayer, is the one who wrote this, but you will see references to many different scholars and their work. And yes, this is his thesis. It's a great paper. Has a lot of primary sources in it that we will be reading, we'll be talking about, obviously, of course, the scripture themselves. And we're going to look, he's going to touch on a lot. He's going to touch on the exile, the Babylonian exile, different things of the whys. Why did these people, why did they do these things? Why did they paint this narrative, to have this agenda to show Jezebel specifically as someone so wicked? Now, extra biblically, before we get to the paper, I just want to say this. There is some extra biblical proof of Ethbaal, the father of Jezebel, who was a priest of Baal, of Asherah, Baal, all the different, all the players that the gods that are told that are so wicked. But Israel was worshiping these gods. What's the proof? Inside the Bible. Ahab marries the daughter of a Sidonian king, or king of Tyre, a Phoenician king, a priest of Baal himself, a high priest. There is extra biblical proof that was a typical marriage arrangement, that it could very much feasibly have happened. There's no proof, extra biblical proof of Jezebel herself, but her father, there is extra biblical proof. There's 100% extra biblical proof of Ahab. So with that said, let's start reading. The alienation of Jezebel. Reading the Deuteronomic historian's portrait of Jezebel in the contemporary global text. I'll try to skip all the boring stuff for you if I can, but if you're interested in this paper, obviously here it is. Candleman Conrad Bayer, or Conrad Candleman Bayer. And this, obviously, yes, the Jesuit School of Theology in Santa Clara, but don't worry about that. Let's get to the information that cannot be disputed. Yes, let's do that. So the abstract. Even the casual reader of the books of Kings will notice, and why do I pull this kind of stuff up? Like, to read it. So you can say, oh, well, what is she doing over here? I'm trying to show you best that I can that this isn't just something that I'm pulling out of the air, so to speak. There are experts and people who are, Bible scholars, researchers who have come to a consensus that the Bible, there's information being hidden or taken out, rearranged, inserted into biblical text. Even the casual reader of the book of Kings will notice that the Deuteronomic historian assigns a disproportionately large amount narrated time to the reign of the house of Ahab. Let me blow this up because it's a bit small. All right, that's a little better. Okay. Geez, hold on. Get that over here. All right. Much better. All right. The reign of the house of Ahab, 1 Kings chapter 16, 29 through 2. Oh, excuse me, 29 through 2 Kings 10. My bad. See, just roll with me on this. This is surprising because in the judgment of Deuteronomic historian, quote, no one sold himself to do evil in the eyes of Yahweh, as did Ahab, incited by Jezebel, his wife. That is 1 Kings chapter 21, 25. Right there, you can hear it like, oh, no one else was as evil as Ahab. And you know who made him do it? His evil foreign wife. Dun, dun, dun. Why does the Deuteronomic historian dedicate so much narrated space, not only to Ahab, but especially to the character and deeds of his wife Jezebel? And why in this narrative does the Deuteronomic historian craft such an unprecedentedly abhorrent and objectionable portrait of Jezebel that makes her completely unacceptable, even surpassing the evil of her own husband, right? She's just the worst of all time. We have people actually going around talking the Jezebel spirit. Oh, you're a Jezebel. Well, let's examine Jezebel more. And this is in the series of the Sons of God, the Ben Elohim series, because this is about the Israel worshiping other gods, and Ahab, their king, was married in the story, married to a woman who was a daughter of the priest of Baal, one of the priests of Baal, and they paint her as someone who wanted everybody to worship Baal, and she was trying to force them to worship Baal. That's not even in the story if you read the story. In the actual story, it says they don't want to worship Baal. Elijah's saying, you guys aren't going to worship Baal anymore. And we're gonna take care of that. So really, even in the story, she's not prohibiting anyone from worshiping Yahweh because she named her children. The name Yah is in a lot of her children's names. So I digress. Let's get back to this paper. Recent scholarly research has provided a convincing picture of the 9th and 8th century BCE Israel, the setting of the JezeBAAL story. Ironically, the research discloses a heterogeneous society that enjoyed great diversity. Yeah, so it's not just one straight type of culture. They were multicultural. This particular society accommodated a variety of deities, hosted a multiplicity of ethnicities, with an array of interlocking cultures. That's the facts about ancient Israel. That's the facts. This would be a society in which a foreign-born queen like Phoenician Jezebel would not be an anomaly, but she would be accepted and at home in such an environment. But Deuteronomic narrative about her suggests otherwise. Today, if you haven't done study on this, it's great for you to just like take some notes if you're not too tired, but just, we need to know who are these people. Some people don't subscribe to, certain texts being ascribed to the Elohists, the Deuteronomists, the Yahwists. However, we're smart enough to see it. And like I said, there's scholarly consensus pointing out that it's 100% a certain type of author in different parts of the Bible, especially when we're talking about the Deuteronomists. We're going from the book of Joshua, and then we're going all the way into where we are right now into Kings. Okay? So, and other books too, but I'm just saying. So back to this. Today's scholarship is almost unanimous in its view that the final redaction of the Deuteronomic history occurred in Judah in the exilic and post-exilic era. So this is during their exiles, guys, people listening. All right. Although Judah was permitted to rebuild after the exile, it had to grapple with significant sociocultural and religious changes. And in particular, it had to define a new self-understanding. See that? They had to regroup. They had to repaint, improve, brush up on, rewrite, redact. This dissertation argues that the Deuteronomic historians' alienating portrait of Jezebel coincides with and serves the interest of the change in Israel's self-conceptualization. I love that word. A change precipitated by the post-exilic crisis of identity. The narrative paints a portrait of Jezebel as ethnically, religiously, culturally un-Israelite. Her unacceptability in the narrative coincides with the exclusiveness that characterized this redefinition of the Israelite community. It offers the Yehud community a clear distinction between what is Israelite and what is not. The Yehud community would be Southern Kingdom, the Judite community, okay? Such an analysis not only informs our reading of the Jezebel story, but also sounds a warning for today's reader from a post-colonial perspective. The religious, ethnic, cultural, and patriarchal biases evident in the narrative of the Deuteronomic historian's portrait of Jezebel are still perpetuated in various forms of discrimination today. So we're gonna look at this. Why, why is this here? Is it really truly the voice of God and God said all of this? Or were there men who had an agenda who put this work in? Of course, a little of both, right? Okay. The greatest tragedies of human history, the senseless wars, holocausts, genocides, and endless conflicts have come about in part because the maintenance of identity is so often at the expense of the construction of an, quote, other. Talking about xenophobia, used against people. The Bible's been used against so many different people, especially African slaves, the slave Bible, and many others, not just African slaves, but over millennia. So we have to, am I saying reject the Bible? Never. No. Embrace the Bible, but know what you're reading and be able to look at it with a deeper lens, like a microscope or something like an X-ray that looks deeper. We say the darkest minds of the light. We go deeper. We do the esoteric. We don't do the exoteric. We go beneath the surface and find out what is arcane, what has been changed. Why has it been changed? What are you trying to do with this text to me as a person? What are you trying to do? Give me 1 second. Okay. Oh, wow. Sorry. Right, let me get back to this. Thank you for waiting. All right, so there is more that unites humanity than the religious, ethnic, cultural, gender, or geopolitical space differences that frequently pit us against them. And by the way, when we talk about gender, we know that this story, just like the story of Samson and Delilah, are misogynistic, and the story of Adam and Eve, used to turn the divine, or to turn people against the divine feminine, and to oppress women, suppress women, abuse women throughout ancient times and even now. So this isn't about putting one gender over another, but we see what's going on here. It's a complete fabrication. All of these stories. When I say all of these stories, I'm talking about the ones against women, not the Bible. I want to be clear. It's a complete fabrication about what happened with Jezebel. It's a complete fabrication about what happened with Delilah. It's a complete fabrication saying that Eve is what was a sinner and was weak. These are all hate campaigns to turn mankind against their mothers, their sisters, their daughters. That's what it is. So let's keep digging and keep uncovering this truth. All right. When diversity is seen only as a threat, the world loses. That's a good statement. So here's the acknowledgement. I just want to say, point out some things. He's grateful to God. So this is actually a theist. This is another person. Let me read this. So you'll know, oh, these people hate God. And no, people who actually love God want to know the truth of God. They don't want to be spoon-fed or rocked to sleep by people who hate a certain group of people who want power. So they just tell us, oh, that's evil. So that's, God said it's evil. So you just do what we say. That's what goes on usually in religion. Doesn't matter what religion it is. Somebody's always saying, I got God. I know what to tell you what God said. All right. And then you say, well, what did God say? Oh, God said that that Jezebel and all women are really, really evil. So yeah, I'm going to take a look for myself and see if this is authentic or what actually is lying beneath the writing on this page, or within the writing on this page, I should say. So he does an acknowledgement and he says, this is a work, a work of this scope will not be possible without the generosity and sacrifices of numerous individuals and groups. I am grateful to God for the enkindling in me a keen interest and love for the scriptures. Wow, this sounds like a darkest mind of the light. My heartfelt gratitude, okay, to my infatigable advisor, Professor Gina Hintz Piazza, and readers, Professor John Indries. So it just goes down the list. Guidance, suggestive, constructive criticism from his peers. Okay, so this is just obviously acknowledgments, but there are a lot. All right, so let's get back to this information. We're going to get to the information on the redactors and the whys, but just want to get it all covered. So these are the books of the Bible. It's a great paper. Okay, introduction. Okay. There are hardly any homogeneous countries in terms of culture, religion, ethnicity, and race today. Multiculturalism has become the way to view and form nationhood in the Western world. Let me make sure I can be heard. I haven't even looked. Shalom, can you hear me okay? Am I coming in clear? Peace, everybody. John Doe, new mindset, awoken. So if you can hear me, put a 1 in the chat, but I'm gonna just keep reading. Hopefully you can hear me. Multiculturalism has become the way to view and form nationhood in the Western world. At the end of the introduction to his book, If This Is Your Land, Where Are Your Stories? Edward Chamberlain asked a profoundly complex question. Can one land really be home to more than one people? Oh, definitely, because that was called Canaan back then and other lands. But anyway, the native and newcomer, or to Arab and Jew, Hutu and Tutsi, Albanian and Kosovar, Turk and Kurd. Can the world be home to all of us? I think so, but not until we have reimagined them, hold on, and us. Some social scientists believe an individual's identification with a certain group, ethnicity, or religion plays a determining role in how this individual assimilates or resists a new immigrant environment. Should there be an ethnic, religious, or cultural test for citizenship of any nation? How much assimilation is appropriate, or how much resistance is permissible for individuals and groups in respect of national identity formation? How much proximity is safe without fear of corruption or contamination? Are hybridity and multiculturalism assets to be cherished or threats to be sacralized? Or threats to sacralized identity, my bad, to their spiritual, doctrines and ways of life. Sacralized identities. These and many more are questions that contemporary society must address. Okay, I'm going to kind of get through this because he has a good point, but I really want to get to the info. So you guys get it. He's letting us know. All right, the JezeBAAL story. Wonderful. All right, thank you, new mindset. Okay, here we are. The JezeBAAL story. Is there really a JezeBAAL story in the Bible? The biblical reference to JezeBAAL occur in 1 and 1st and 2nd Kings. And the narratives form part of the larger accounts of the reign of King Ahab and the Elisha cycle. Like the Queen of Sheba, 1 Kings chapter 10, 2 Chronicles chapter 9, JezeBAAL is a foreign woman of royal heritage. Unlike the Queen of Sheba, JezeBAAL did not just visit Israel and then return to her home. No, JezeBAAL became an Israelite citizen through marriage and occupied the esteemed offices of queen and queen mother. Can't have that, right? Can't have that. A woman, a queen of Israel? Yep. There was a queen of Israel, according to the text, the Bible, and then her daughter was another queen, Athaliah, and they took care of her as well. So I don't mean to laugh at that, but let's keep reading. Quote, by marriage, a woman left her parents, went to live with her husband, joined his clan, to which her children will belong, unquote. For all her fame, however, JezeBAAL, unlike Ruth, Judith, and Esther, does not have a book to her name or even an extensive narrative dedicated to her story. Just the opposite. She's infamous. Indeed, the name JezeBAAL occurs a mere 21 times in the Masoretic text, 1 Kings chapter 16:31, and then all of them are listed there if you want to read them. In the story, Jezebel kills the prophets of Yahweh. 1 Kings chapter 18. All right, so you see where that occurs. That's all referenced. She provides sustenance. Wait. She kills the prophets of Yahweh, provides sustenance to the prophets of Baal and Asherah, threatens revenge against Elijah, arranges the execution of Naboth, and boldly confronts death with painted face and well-groomed hair. From these passages, a Jezebel character has been gleaned. A Jezebel story has emerged. Emphasis on story. The portrait of Jezebel is contemporary literature. Art and entertainment is almost consistently negative. Some recent studies have attempted to present a more balanced portrait of Jezebel. The biblical story of Jezebel is part of a nationalized story of Israel that incorporates diverse constituents whose individual histories and identities have been subsumed, reinterpreted, sometimes marginalized, or even denigrated. Jezebel's identity has suffered more than most in the Deuteronomic historians' redaction. I should have dropped a bomb on that one. There is a new Israelite identity, and Jezebel is now an alien. Not only an alien, an evil alien. And what do we do with evil aliens? Obviously, we have to get rid of them, right? My interest in reading the Jezebel story as a narrative of marginalization, inspired by my personal experience in my country, Ghana. Let me just let everybody, I was holding that one for you. You thought he was what were y'all gonna say? Oh, she's listening to the white man. This is an African Christian, an African person who subscribes to the Bible. All right, so let's just keep going. This is a great paper. So, in my country, Ghana, where many minority tribes feel alienated as their stories and identities have been subsumed, marginalized, denigrated, and in some cases expunged from the story and identity of the new nation. They have lost their stories, their land, and their home, their identities. One moment, please. All right. Sorry. Peace, old account, sorry. Okay, so let's keep going. Thesis statement. My thesis argues that the Deuteronomic historians' alienating portrait of Jezebel coincides with and serves the interest of the change in Israel's self-conceptualization, a change precipitated by the post-exilic crisis of identity. By characterizing Jezebel as a Sidonian princess who appropriates the revered office of Queen of Israel, initiates and patronizes the cult of Baal while totally disregarding Israelite culture and ethical mores and norms. The Deuteronomic historian portrays Jezebel as an undesirable immigrant whose corrupting idolatrous crusade must be surgically removed from Israel. Dun, dun, dun. The description of her ghastly death, mutilation, and the near total annihilation of her corpse is an unequivocal message that Jezebel's legacy ends with her. Hence, it endorses the post-exilic exclusionist view that Jezebel and her kind should have no residence in Israel. A view endorsed by significant post-exilic voices like Ezra and Nehemiah. And that story about her being eaten by dogs was inserted to just totally sensationalize and be like for shock value, because that didn't happen. And biblical scholars all agree that not all, but most agree that was just inserted for, like you heard this scholar say, just for you to see, yes, look at the horrible things that happen to foreigners who bring their gods to us. The gods were already there, but that's the narrative that had to be painted by the Deuteronomist, because their agenda was to say, look, God, we were exiled because we disobeyed the laws of Moses. God. And these gods were so, they brought us to this lowly state. It wasn't, it was our fault that we were taken into captivity. It was our fault. You've heard that before, right? Deuteronomy 28. If you follow these rules, everything will be good for you. If you don't follow these rules, I'm going to make your life a living hell. Am I saying that part of Deuteronomy 28 is wrong or right? I'm just comparing. You've heard people saying, well, we're under the curses. That is a Deuteronomist way of teaching and thinking and proselytizing for people to come aboard, and this is what we do. And it also is something that is used against people, as we're starting to hear in this particular scholar's paper. So anyway, this study will unfold in 3 parts. The first portion sets the stage for rereading Jezebel's character and defending this thesis. This section rehearses the recent scholarship that has enabled a critical reconstruction of the 9th and 8th century BCE Israel as ethnically, religiously, and culturally diverse. Let me say that again. 9th and 8th century BCE, Israel was ethnically, religiously, and culturally diverse. The second portion overviews the scholarly reconstruction of post-exilic Judah as significantly different, revealing a situation of ethnic, religious, and cultural exclusivism and separatism. Interesting. Even toward other Israelites. We already have a separate northern and southern kingdom during this time. So the southern kingdom hated the northern kingdom. They called them idolaters. And it wasn't because of the worship of Baals and Asherahs. It was because their king Jeroboam built another temple in their area, in their land where they resided, because they separated. And he said, I don't want you guys going over there. Heck no. You're not going over there with Judah in the southern kingdoms. I don't want you guys traveling there. I don't even know if you guys are going to come back. You guys know their king wants to kill me, right? You guys want to go over there in Rehoboam? No, you guys are staying right here in the northern kingdom with me. I'll build 2 golden calves. I will set this up. You'll feel like you're just right at home. So that's why that's the biggest part. It's not because of the Asherahs and the Baals, because the southern kingdom also worshiped these other gods. It was because they separated and built a new temple, which was totally taboo. All right. Methodology. The rich variety of the biblical text ensures that no one method suffices for the entire Bible. Moreover, variety in methodology enables students of the Bible to explore the text from different perspectives. Nevertheless, some texts demand certain methodological approaches for best results. This dissertation will employ 2 basic methodological approaches that will bridge the needless gap between text and context. While it is true that biblical texts have historical context that needs be explored, it is equally true that all texts have an afterlife and convey a new meaning to new generations of readers. Yes, sir. Amen. By means of diachronic approach, I shall explore the historical environment to which the story of JezeBAAL refers. Recent research by historians and archaeologists and Israel Finkelstein have greatly contributed to our knowledge of life in the northern kingdom of Israel in the period of the Omrides. Today, we have clearer picture of religion, politics, ethnicity, and culture in the 9th and 8th century, 9th and 8th century BCE Israel. Issues which I consider central to JezeBAAL's story. So that's a great opening. Those are great. He's letting us know what he's going to get into, okay? I think I can get to... Now, let me read this. My second approach will be post-colonial exegesis. Post-colonial exegesis. This is pretty interesting, right? Peace, Pat Moses. The work of post-colonial scholars such as Edward Said, Homi Bhabha, and Chinua Achebe. Oh, y'all know things fall apart, right? Who likes Chinua Achebe? Anybody? I like Chinua Achebe. Have greatly sensitized readers concerning subtle strategies of manipulation, prejudice, and even seduction embedded in colonial narratives of subaltern people. That means oppressed, marginalized, subaltern people. By virtue of a claim of power over subaltern peoples, imperialists believe that they have acquired the right to define their subjects, which are the subaltern people. There's a lot of subaltern people in America: Native Americans, Blacks, Latinos, immigrants that like Haitians, and a lot of different people, right? So imperialists believe they have acquired the right to define their subjects, the right to tell the stories of their subjects in order to lead them from ignorance to knowledge, from evil to good, from immoral to moral. What he's saying in this, if y'all are getting bored, I just want to say this. I don't know why I need to read on him. Oh, you don't know him? You would like him. Chinua Achebe, he's an author. He has a couple books, but my favorite is Things Fall Apart. Now, this particular scholar is showing us this is what happened in ancient times too, not just now. The powers that be, who's going to write his story? Who's going to be the Deuteronomist that writes does the new and improved story, right? Let me read this again, and I want you to think not about the modern oppressed people, the modern subaltern people. I want you to also think of the people of the ancient times during that 9th and 8th century, or after actually the writings should have been after. The setting is 9th and 8th century BCE. I could be corrected if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. But the writings are after that, maybe 100 years after, maybe 100, 200 years after. Nonetheless, we're talking about throughout time of civilization, there's always been the imperial group that looks at other people who are not powerful as their subjects, So let me read this, and you think of the people back then they said, oh, well, God, we're going to rewrite this, or we're going to put some stuff in here. We're doing some redactions here because this is what people listen to. If we tell them that God said this, that's how it'll work. And it's not just the Bible. It is absolutely every single power group throughout time, going all the way back to when I talk about the garden. Even though you might say, it's a mythological story. Well, guess what? That story is very informative. The Elohim did not want mankind to have knowledge of good and evil, because they would become judges. They would become gods like them. They wanted to keep them as their subjects, subaltern, marginalized, oppressed. Get it? Okay, so by virtue of a claim of power over subaltern peoples, imperialists believe they have acquired the right to define their subjects. Like, God told us we can write this. The right to tell the stories of their subjects in order to lead them from ignorance to knowledge, from evil to good, from immoral to moral. We have to rewrite this. We're going to put in some stuff about Jezebel. Yeah, a foreign woman who is a queen, right? Nobody hates that more. Yeah, put that in there. And then what we'll do is we'll sell it as if it's real, right? That will help the people follow God, and we will be safe from punishment ever again. We'll never have to suffer exile or captivity. See? So Jezebel never gets to tell her story. She never gets to tell her own story. He's Ghanaian, Patmos. He's Ghanaian. He's from Ghana. Yeah. Indeed, her story is embedded in the imperial narrative of Judean scribes several centuries later. Yes, see, so it was several centuries later. Okay. This imperial control, now we're still talking about the Deuteronomists. We're still talking about those who are the redactors. It is important to point these, I'm not even trying to villainize, I'm just saying it is what it is. This is how powers that be move, unfortunately. The Masoretes going in there and totally wiping whole verses out of the Bible, changing words. The sons of Israel. It's the sons of God in Deuteronomy 32. And then we have unfortunate people. I'm going to be nice. Unfortunate people who do not have the ability to see beneath the surface. Christ says, those with eyes and ears will see and hear. And those who don't, oh, well, they're going to lose. They lost some and they're going to lose any more. I'm paraphrasing. That's scripture. So you should be able to see what's going on here. And I love how he pointed out. I love this paper. And that's why I wanted to read it to you all. This imperial control, like I said, I've always talked about Jezebel and how the story is fabricated and how the narrative is painted against her as a pagan woman who overpowers her weak husband. That is what the redactors put in there. That is what the Deuteronomists put in there. They put that story in there for people to read and say, oh, we're gonna turn them away from these foreign gods and these foreign women. This imperial control of the biblical narratives is perhaps best captured by the title of Daniel Fleming's monograph, The Legacy of Israel in Judah's Bible. Y'all better take note of that. By means of post-colonial reading of the Jezebel story, I will not only expose editorial biases of the Deuteronomic historian, oh, this is so good already, but also explore the ways in which the Jezebel story speaks to fringe people in an era of globalization, an era of religious, ethnic, and cultural pluralism. Do you see how this is a great paper because he's showing the whys of the redactions and he's mirroring it, or he's equating it to what's going on today. So you can really, instead of just looking at it two-dimensionally on the page, you can really say, okay, I get it. I relate to those people thousands of years ago. Meaning, I know what it's like to be lied to by government or the powers that be for their own. They're saying they're doing it for me, for my own good. But I have the knowledge of good and evil. And so I will make my own decision as the judge, as the God, as the government of myself and my own soul when I read these scriptures. You know? So, significance of study. On the academic level, it is my hope that this research will be an added voice in the discussion concerning the complex relationship between Israel and Judah. Well, your wish came true, my friend, because we're doing that right now. The thrust of this thesis is, however, aimed at stimulating the discussion on the increasing diversification of the contemporary world and adding a fresh perspective on identity construction, a perspective that is more open, more dynamic, more in consonance with the human reality. Moreover, I believe my study will give impetus to the continuing advocacy for fringe peoples who suffer discrimination due to religious, ethnic, cultural, or gender differentiation. I just said he's relating this to our lives. It's great. He's not just like, hey, let me tell you about these redactions. Yeah, they were tripping. They were taking stuff out, adding stories, trying to manipulate how how you worship. No, he's also showing us this is stuff that's never changed. It's going on right now. We need to look at it and we need to avoid it and be informed. Nature and scope. The world is constantly being transformed as people migrate and resettle in strange lands among strange people. There is growing diversity, which threatens traditional societies holding onto sacred time-honored values. Diversity becomes a real threat for such communities. What is the appropriate response? This study shall analyze the Deuteronomic historians' response to an identity crisis in post-exilic Judah and the consequences of that response. Let me read that again. This study shall analyze the Deuteronomic historians' response to an identity crisis in post-exilic Judah and the consequences of that response. What is their response? To redact, to take away, to add, to hide. That's what their response was. Because they said, God put us in exile because we didn't obey. It has to be because we let, women, we love these foreign women and we start worshiping their gods, or not start, we keep worshiping their gods. Let me correct that. So that must be the reason why God's letting us suffer like this. So this is what we're going to do. We're just going to go into the annals of the royalty and check it out. And we're going to just flip some stuff. I see here it says Ahab was something, he committed some misdemeanor. No, we're going to say that he killed Naboth. We're going to do that. Okay. Oh, no, actually, we're not even going to make him strong like that. We're going to make him weak and say his wife killed Naboth. Okay. That's what they actually did. That's what they did. They blatantly added and they lied on the Most High. They said that Yahweh said certain prophecies and that oracles spoke certain prophecies that were never, ever from Yahweh, that were added. And doesn't the scripture say don't add or take away? This study shall analyze the Deuteronomic historians' response to an identity crisis in post-exilic Judah and the consequences of that response. Can you guys hear me okay? Peace, King Ra. Can you guys hear me all right? I might have to do a part 2 to this because this paper is good, but there are 208 pages. Okay, don't worry about that. All right. So, and I'm on 18. All right. By reference to historical research and archaeological finds, thank you so much, New Mindset. And I hope you guys are enjoying this information. All right. By reference to historical research and archaeological finds. Remember, I'm reading this paper because it's in the in the Sons of God series, the Bene Elohim, showing the presence of polytheism in ancient Israel all the way up to the time of Christ. And I'm on this particular stream, I'm showing you, well, how could this stuff be hidden? Well, there are people who actually were authors who went in and did their changes, manipulation, redactions. They did that. The claim was, and when you look at, when you examine what happened, it's because they needed to. People weren't listening to God. They had to put this out here, this polemic about Jezebel, and she's foreign, she loves Asherah, she's got power over Israel. Oh my gosh, what do we do? We have her eaten by dogs in this story. That's brilliant. Yes. Oh, before she gets eaten by dogs though, can we make her like put on some makeup and look good? Like, like a whore? Sure. Add that into, all right. I'm going to keep these guys away from these foreign women. Let's do this. That's what I mean, kind of putting some levity, but that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. By reference to historical research and archaeological finds, it shall demonstrate the considerable differences in socio-religious and cultural environment in which Jezebel lived, and that in which her story was reinterpreted by the Deuteronomic historian several centuries later. Remember I said this is the story is set in 9th and 8th century BCE, Israel, right? Northern Kingdom. Well, hundreds and hundreds of years later, when they went into captivity, they said, give me those royal annals right now. I need to see these things. All right. Okay, let me see what we got here. We got King David and Bathsheba. I think I'm going to make a story about Naboth because I was looking in the royal annals. Oh, you were? What were you looking at, my Deuteronomist author brother? Well, I was looking that something about Naboth, like, I don't know, Ahab was, I don't know, the guy didn't, something happened. It was really minor, but I think we should take that story. I'm listening. Okay, I think we should take that story and we should say that they wanted something from him because, we're going to make the people really upset. Like, how could they do that to a commoner? The king has all of this wealth and then he wants the garden of this guy. Yes, I get where you're going with this. Yes. And then what it will do, we won't even make it the king. We'll make it Jezebel. Oh, I like what you're doing. Here, write it. Say less. I'll look at your finished product. I'll see your draft. You're onto something. So that's what they were doing. They were like, oh, we're gonna add this. We're gonna add this stuff, and we're gonna show how evil foreign women and foreign gods are. But the gods weren't foreign to them, so I shouldn't have said that. We're gonna show that we need to stop worshiping these gods that we've always known since the beginning of time. That's Israelites. These gods were never foreign to them. They made them foreign because they had remember the covenant, Torah. But they were, you get it, like, okay, you guys still can, even Solomon was like, all right, wives, you guys can worship to Asherah. All right, guys, you can worship all the gods you like. Don't worry. So it wasn't something foreign to them. Just want to point that out. All right. Quote, stories matter. Many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of people, but the stories can also repair that broken dignity. Jezebel has been, Jezebel has been maligned, defamed, discredited, and dishonored for centuries on the evidence of her detractors. She doesn't represent herself. Is there perhaps a side of her story that is left untold or has been misinterpreted due to prejudice? Of course. A post-colonial reading of the Jezebel story will address this question. This dissertation will not address the question relating to the identity of authors of the Deuteronomic history. So he's like, I'm not going to try to like just, put people on blast. That's not even it. But definitely they are Deuteronomic or Deuteronomistic, whichever way you would say it, historian or authors in history. Yes, Deuteronomic history. It will also not explore or clarify issues relating to various stages of redaction of Deuteronomic history. It presumes, however, a final post-exilic Deuteronomic redaction. See right there? What he's showing you is this is because of the exiles, actually. All this stuff that was added in and the embellishing, a final post-exilic Deuteronomic, I like to say Deuteronomistic, but he doesn't. So Deuteronomic redaction. Both are correct. While identity formation is crucial to both the individual and communities, it is important to acknowledge, respect, and celebrate diversity. The contemporary global context acknowledges increasing diversification of the communities. The dilemma facing many Western societies has to do with managing diversity. Will the acceptance of immigrants from all faiths, ethnicities, and cultures not subject traditional societies to identity crisis? Reading the JezeBAAL story in the context of the contemporary immigration debate, I shall emphasize the inevitability. I shall emphasize the inevitability of the dislocation and resettlement of peoples, the inevitability of the diversification of communities worldwide, and the importance of discerning and denouncing narratives of exclusivism composed from prejudiced lenses with no foundation in fact and history. See, so he's using this, as I said earlier, to show us what's going on today. So, okay, great. Let's see if we can get to. All right, brother. Let's see here. Chapter 1. Review of scholarship on the JezeBAAL story. Knowledge builds on knowledge. This dissertation is intended to be a humble contribution to an already growing literature on the JezeBAAL story. Like he's like, I'm not the first one who saw this. That's how I feel too. I'm not the first one who saw this either. A lot of people see it. So it's his contribution to an already growing literature on the JezeBAAL story and the complex issues relating to immigration and identity formation. Well, that's a first. I haven't seen anyone else do that. It will build on foundations laid by very distinguished biblical scholars and social historians. Put a pin in that. Have you ever researched? Oh, Gobekli Tepe. Very briefly, I actually did 2 interviews with Ralph Ellis, who gave me some really interesting. He gave me some interesting insight on that, and I looked at some of his literature just from his his assessment of what it is. He says it is a necropolis, so wrap your mind around that. E1B1, but yes, I'd like to definitely find. Oh, and I also was laughing in the debate with Christina Nick when she didn't even know how to say it, but that's okay. A lot of people stumble like me. You heard me trying to say anthropomorphic the other night when I was tired. But the thing that I'm saying is I knew she wasn't familiar with it. And she was trying to say the priest of Gobekli Tepe, that's what I get. See, that's what God does. I was making fun of her. Gobekli Tepe. It is a tongue twister though. So shout out to Christina. Gobekli Tepe were like the priests that the Israelites modeled their priesthood after. Give me a break. That was what, thousands of years before the Exodus. But I digress. So not extensively, but I'd say a little bit. When I say briefly, I mean I've read some stuff from Ralph. I know the background on it. I could see where he could say it's a necropolis, but I don't think so, because there was proof of life and people, having animals there, like husbandry there. And so, yes, good topic. Thank you. It's still a tongue twister, though. All right, so let's get back to so this is. I'm going to kind of skim through it. This chapter shall review some of the literature considered useful to the argument of this dissertation. There are two categories of literature, my friends. Okay, let's listen to this. There's number one, the primary literature on the JezeBAAL story. Okay, that would be commentaries, monographs, dissertations, histories, and articles. Then, number two, there's secondary or auxiliary. See, that's, you heard me making fun of somebody, and then that's what happened. Like the spirit of articulation said, "Oh, I'm going to get you." Auxiliary literature, secondary, like added-ons, right? We know what that means, right? Secondary or auxiliary literature, post-colonial historiography, contemporary immigration debate. The New Testament has just one allusion to the JezeBAAL character in Revelation 2:20. Yes, let's read that, y'all. But I have this against you. You permit the woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophet and is teaching and misleading my servants into fornication and to eat food sacrificed to idols. That's a quote from Revelation chapter 2, verse 20. It is obvious that Jezebel's fortunes have not changed. So see what the author's saying? He's like, the scholar's saying, dang, all the way up to the book of Revelation, they're still hating on Jezebel. All because of the Deuteronomistic redactions and the narrative painted by them, the false narrative that she was this evil queen. It is obvious that Jezebel's fortunes have not changed. This Jezebel is similarly accused of apostasy and immorality, evoking memories of the original Jezebel. This sole reference in the New Testament is significant in that it gives us some idea of the reception history of the Jezebel character in early Christianity. Jezebel is the name of any woman in whom religious difference converges with political power. Remember, she had a daughter named Athaliah, too, who they killed. The first interpretations of the biblical Jezebel character were in the form of references in sermons and hymns in patristic times and in patristic exegesis, largely dominated by allegorical and analogical interpretation. So they were just getting on her badly, still are. The Jezebel character and archetype were favorite sermon themes, right? Everybody knows that, like, you don't want to be like Jezebel. So let me get through this. I just want to kind of get to, this is great information. I might have to just do a part two. I was going to run through it, but no, I can't. Let's get to this. Let me go back. Stop it. Stop trying to rush through this. All right. Let's see here. I'm getting a little tired. Damn, I've been on here for over an hour. Okay. So we know that Jezebel is just the worst of all time, right? Everybody, that's according to the Bible and all the sermons and everything. Okay. Jezebel is the name of any woman. I said that, read that part. Okay. The Jezebel character archetype. The Jezebel character and archetype were favorite sermon themes. Ephraim of Nisibis, noted for his exegetical writings, homilies, compositions of hymns, compared Jezebel to Sheol. Sheol is like the grave. That's what that means. Sheol was not indeed Sheol, but its semblance. Jezebel was the true Sheol. You see this, everybody? She's being called the grave, who devoured the just. Like this is wild. Nisbeen hymn, number 67. Saint Jerome, a contemporary of Ephraim, reputed for his translation of the Vulgate, commenting on the narrative of Naboth's vineyard. That didn't even really, the Naboth's vineyard thing was a remix. She had nothing to do with that. It was inserted into 1 Kings chapter 21. That's what that was, right? You'll see that in the Bible, in the King James Version, there's a war that Ahab is having against I think it's Aram. I can't remember, so don't quote me, but he's having a war. Give me a second. I was gonna get that, y'all. This is why you don't do stuff late. Basically, in chapter 20, in 1 Kings chapter 20, Ahab is at war with, extra biblically, in historical text, we see that it's his ally. I think it's Aram. And then all of a sudden, you boom, here's the story of Naboth getting unalived and set up by Jezebel. And then in 21, then it goes back to 22 where they're saying he's in war again, which the war never happened. He never had a war. So it's like they just wedged that story in between the story of him at war. But in the Septuagint, it goes chapter 20, Ahab at war with his actual ally, but in the story, he's at war. And then chapter 20 and then chapter 21, he's still at war and he dies. And then the story of Naboth comes. Either way, that story was made up. And that is scholarly consensus that agrees with that. But you can read it and see that it just comes out of nowhere. Anyway, I digress. A contemporary, Naboth's vineyard translates vineyard with Latin word hortus, which makes it garden. See, even we got people changing the name of the, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, now it's a garden. All right, whatever. According to Jerome, Jezebel desired to cultivate a sensual garden for herself. See this? So even one of the church fathers, Jerome, was like, you know what? I'm going to make it like she was just like Eve. And she wants a sensual garden for herself. It's not even about Ahab anymore. And Ahab motivated her to kill Naboth. So it was her. It's twisted all over the place. But we're undoing it. We're step by step with the help of others, like this particular scholar and many others. We're going to get to the surface of this, to the foundation, what's underneath the surface, I should say, excuse me. Please forgive me. It's almost 1 o'clock here. He contended that the land Ahab and Jezebel acquired in this manner was Sodom's vineyard, Sodom and Gomorrah. Got to throw that sexuality in there. It's like, oh, sex, that's what it was. A symbol of sexual impropriety, kinkiness. In the 9th century, Saint Methodius, in his Banquet of 10 Virgins, refers to Jezebel as lust incarnate and suggests that it was Jezebel's desire rather than political persecution from which Elijah fled. Oh, wow. So now they're making it like she wanted to jump Elijah's bones, y'all. Oh, my goodness. Please. Come on. Please. Somebody listen to this. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Is where Adam and Eve went. Okay. Call each other Jezebels. Yes, that's true. Older ladies too. That Jezebel. Yeah. It is important to note that in all these references, the Jezebel character or archetype is consistently a negative. Is consistently, I lost it, a negative figure to be scorned and ostracized. In the corridors of medieval European palaces, Jezebel was remembered and compared to infamous women such as Catherine de' Medici and Anne Boleyn. So you know who the Medicis are? And Anne Boleyn, I believe that was King. Oh my gosh, I forgot his name. The eighth, what is it? I forgot this guy. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. I can't remember his name. Somebody help me out. It's not King Arthur. It was, how could I forget his name? Henry VIII. Yeesh. I didn't look. How could that's from grade school? My brain is starting to fall asleep on me. That's what it's. I got to stop this soon and do part 2. All right, Henry VIII. I believe that was Henry VIII's wife. I'm not. Don't quote me. Quote: they were both seen by many of their contemporaries as dangerous, evil women who had the power to influence political events. They were Jezebels. Dun, dun, dun. So you see old account? You're right. It is pretty safe to conclude that Jezebel has had a consistently negative reception down through the ages. Yeah. Primary literature on the Jezebel story. Okay, commentaries. It is important to recognize that the Jezebel story is an integral part of the Elisha cycle. That is when we go from like First Kings to Second Kings, okay? Elijah and Elisha cycle within the Deuteronomistic. Oh, now he says it. Deuteronomistic history. I wonder why he says Deuteronomist, or did he? I'm tripping. Deuteronomistic. I thought he was saying Deuteronomic earlier. Anyway, they're both the same. They're both correct. Within the Deuteronomistic history, this one flows off my tongue. Like it's easier for me to like say it. Deuteronomic feels like I'm just stopping because they're Deuteronomist. But he was saying Deuteronomic. I got to look up here, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you guys and gals. I thought he was saying Deuteronomic. Am I losing it? Come on. He was Deuteronomic. Deuteronomic. But it is also Deuteronomistic. They're both synonymous. Let's get back to what we're looking at. Don't get sidetracked any longer. Let's see here. Deuteronomy. Let me see. Where am I? Oh man, I think I skipped something, y'all. That's what I get for going back. I had to know. Did I already read this? I think it's time for me to shut it down and do part 2. Oh yes, you read all of this, silly woman. Silly woman. Remember Trump? Silly woman. It's pretty woman, it's not silly woman. Okay. We'll constantly be transformed. He gave us a great intro on that. Okay, I read this. Of course I read this. Yes. All right. Primary literature on the Jezebel story. Let's just get this, and then I'll probably, at the end of this particular point, I will stop. It is important to recognize that the Jezebel story, I already read this. Oh, no, I didn't. Yes, you did, but that's all you read. It is important to recognize that the Jezebel story is an integral part of the Elijah-Elisha cycle within the Deuteronomistic history, whose common final authorship is no longer debated. Many commentators and biblical historians have made contributions to our overall understanding of the nature and the purpose of this narrative corpus and the characterization as well as the function of Jezebel in it. While acknowledging several significant commentaries for the scope and focus of this dissertation, it will suffice to review 3 noteworthy commentaries which contribute different perspectives on interpreting the story of Jezebel. Walter Brueggemann makes a significant contribution to this debate when he writes, quote, "The narrative does not intend to be history as we in our modern modes understand the term. The narrative is not and does not purport to be a factual account or a monarchical." Is that right, y'all? Monarchical? Monarchical. I gotta look it up. I know it's about monarch, but monarch, I'm trying to pronounce it correctly. This is how you might be saying, how she pronounce those words? Just like anybody else. Look them up. Monarchical. When it gets late, that's my, you know, that's my, my kryptonite. Jeez, here it is. Ready? Let's try that again. Hold on. Monarchical, that's what I thought. Monarchical, to do with the monarch, a system of government or society ruled by a monarch. Duh, just stumbling through the word. So now we got it. Monarchical. All right, where were we? Factual account of the monarchical past. Some of the stuff is like tongue twister, right? Monarchical past. Rather consistently, the narrative footnotes its text in order, rather consistently the narrative footnotes its text in order to alert readers who want detailed history that they can go to the sources to check out the facts. Thus, our text is not history. It is rather an interpretive commentary upon that royal history, or, as we might say, it is a theology of history, an attempt to understand the vagaries of lived public experience in that world with particular reference to Yahweh, the God of Israel. So basically, his commentary is a bold application of the narrative of contemporary socio-political situations and debates. With respect to the Jezebel story, he admits to the heavy polemic in the narrative. We already talked about how she's been just, everybody says she's the worst woman ever. A polemic rising from the Deuteronomistic historians. He changed the word midstream. Negative judgment on all northern kings. That's the point. I'm glad I'm going to stop. I think I'm going to stop around here. So basically, the Deuteronomistic authors, the Deuteronomistic historians who were authors of these particular scriptures that we're discussing, they wanted to paint a negative light. They wanted to put the northern kingdom kings in a negative light. They're painting them in the worst way possible. Okay? In Brueggemann's view, the narrative offers a critique of power politics, the clash between prophet and royalty. Get it? Elijah is fighting against Ahab and Jezebel's power. So the clash between prophet and royalty reflects the endless tension between faiths and politics. The prophetic voices are decisively clear. What are the prophetic voices that are in these texts? Let's look. Yahweh's will always prevails. So don't mess with Yahweh. Don't you dare try to worship Asherah and get us in a trick bag, all locked up in exile and captivity. Okay? That's what it is. The prophetic voices are the ones that are in the story. Elijah saying, you will not worship Baal. You're going to worship Yahweh only. And then Ahab's like, dude, come on, chill. You know, we worship Yahweh. I have something set up in the temple for him too. This is in the scriptures, you guys. I'm not just being funny. I'm just kind of like giving you a modern way of saying it. The prophetic voices are decisively clear. Yahweh's will always prevails. The central theological theme in Brueggemann's terms is the endless reopening of history. Whenever established power is entrenched, the God of Israel may, in a violent way, destabilize and reopen the public process of politics, like all the priests of Baal were killed. The restless, subversive holiness, and Ahab's entire bloodline almost was wiped out. Pretty much. All of the, they went and killed, what was his name? Joram, the son of JezeBAAL. It's just wild, the story. That was done by Jehu. And because the whole narrative is, they were worshiping Baal, they got to go. But everybody was worshiping Baal. In fact, Jehu, according to scripture, never got rid of the idols. So if he was so upset about Ahab and Jezebel and their royal family worshiping idols, why didn't Jehu get rid of it? Because it wasn't about that. The restless, subversive holiness of Yahweh permits no absolutizing of human power. However, Brueggemann is wary of religious zealots. The true believer posture, the vigilante mentality that sees a straight line between faith and politics and prefers the ideology of the harem to the pragmatics of diplomacy. Brueggemann concludes, quote, in our time, there is a kind of simplistic vigilante politics of extremism that wants public policy to be organized by the mandates of pure faith. There are no conclusions here, but we cannot miss the problematic character of such an enterprise. More reasoned, more pragmatic, more agile understanding indicates an interpretive maneuverability, slippage, between theological affirmation and political enactment. All right, y'all probably tired. Okay, I'm stopping right here. I'm gonna stop right here. I won't torture you any longer with this. However, I do want to just say this about Jezebel. The story of Jezebel in the Bible. She is considered to be the worst person who ever lived. But if you look at the scripture, and let that be like something you put on your to-do list if you are interested in this. If you look at the scripture, do you want me to get the scripture? Probably, yeah. Let me just get it. You'll see where Jezebel never condemns people for worshiping Yahweh. It is said in the scripture that she's killing the prophets, yet you hear that the prophets are alive. That's in the scripture. Obadiah lives, Elijah, and I think it says 1,000 other ones. 700. Let me get it. I'll get it for you right here. Right. I gotta remember. I love this word. I mean, we know monarchy, but monarchical. That's kind of monarchical, right? I just looked at the word. So let me get it. I'm a little tired, but thank you. This one wasn't as, maybe you guys got a little bored, but the information that I'm presenting is a critique of the Deuteronomists and the Deuteronomistic authors and the redactions. There's tons of them. It's not just in these books, the First and Second Kings. It's throughout the Bible. Especially when we look at Joshua, and Samuel, Jeremiah. There's so much redaction in the Bible from cover to cover. Of course. And then people like, I want to get my lick in, Jerome. I want to make her say that she was trying to jump Elijah's bones. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, everybody wants to do that. Got it. So we have to dig deep and look and see what is beneath the surface and undo this tangle web that has been woven to an outstanding many pieces of literature, because there are many books in the Bible, but it's one piece of literature as a whole, an outstanding piece of literature, which is known as the Bible. No, it's not just fairy tales. To people out there who think that's where I'm going with this. No, it's not. It is not fairy tales like anything historical. Powers that be have put their hands on it. Some for good and some for thinking they're doing good, but they were doing nothing besides hiding, adding confusion, and we're uncovering it piece by piece. So let me get this First Kings. I think it's chapter 21. Get it. I think their story starts. Let me just go to the whole book, First Kings. Okay. So that's about it. I should show some stuff. I am tired. Yeah, you're tired of hearing me say I'm tired. I know. I know you are. Sorry. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. Pass. Oh, this is Naboth. Okay, let me go ahead and go to 16, maybe. I think that might be 2. No. Oh, Jehu. Sheesh. This guy. I'm going to read this to you so I can show you about who Jehu is in the story. Everything Canaanite is hated by religion after they copied them and demonized them. Excuse me. I was going to say demonetized. You're right. You're absolutely right. All right. Let's see here. Let's read this a little bit. Not a lot, just a little, just so you can get some idea of what I'm talking about here. Ooh. All right. It is all right. All right. All right. All right. What in the world? It's off here. All righty. First Kings chapter 16. So I just want to show you Jehu. Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, the son of Hanani, against Baasha. Baasha is a king. Now, this is very important because you're going to hear him speaking of prophecy like an oracle, right? This is a theme that's repeated throughout these redactions, through these books, basically. I don't want to call them all, basically in these books. And you're going to hear like the Most High is telling them, say this. And so they say this stuff to these kings. King Baasha, Jehu is like, all right, God wants you to hear this. You want to play? This is what God's saying to you, Baasha. So Jehu is a prophet saying this. So here we go. For as much as I exalted thee out of the dust and made thee prince over my people Israel, and thou hast walked in the way of Jeroboam. Remember you heard that, right? Jehu was telling him that God is judging him for walking in the way of Jeroboam. Later on, you'll see Jehu does the same thing. He walks in the way of Jeroboam as well, but I digress. And thou hast walked in the way of Jeroboam, and hast made my people Israel to sin, to provoke me to anger with their sins. Behold, I will take away thy posterity of Baasha. I'll take away the posterity of Baasha and the posterity of his house, and will make thy house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. Him that dieth of Baasha, this is the part I want you to remember. This is verse 4. Him that dieth of Baasha in the city shall dogs eat. Remember what happened to JezeBAAL. Him that dieth of Baasha shall dogs eat. Him that dieth of his in the fields shall the fowl of the air eat. Why is that a curse that is very, is that literally saying, oh, dogs are going to eat you, Baasha, God told me? No, back then, the language, even outside of the Bible, in those ancient times, they're like, you're going to die a shameful death, meaning nobody's going to bury you. Basically, it means nobody's going to bury you. It didn't mean dogs are going to come eat you. Well, you know what I'm saying? It didn't literally mean that. It meant dogs eat people who aren't buried. Birds in the field eat people who are not buried. That's what they do, right? So that was a part of the oracle. I mean, a curse that so-called prophet Jehu tells to Baasha, King Baasha. That also happened in 1 Kings Let's go to chapter 14 before this. I'm gonna get it for you, show you that. And by the way, he didn't get eaten by dogs. He had a great life and lived with and died with all his loved ones around him, and they had a great burial. So that thing when they would curse each other like dogs are gonna eat you if you die in the city, and if you die in the field, birds are eating you. It was because they said nobody's gonna respect you and give you a decent, respectful, honorable burial. You'll die in shame. You'll like your body will just be garbage. And that's sad how people do that to a lot of people, like just throw them. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. Because you know how I will get into it, like how the families of people say, I just want to find the body. Because people don't want that. They want to do a decent putting people to rest. That's a big deal. So that it wasn't literally about dogs. Why am I driving this home? Because that story about Jezebel being eaten by dogs, her hand, that was all from the Redactors. The Deuteronomistic authors, the Redactors went and put that in there as a cautionary tale, like, oh, you think God's playing? You will get eaten by dogs. And you know what I mean? But in the oracle, as you just saw him in the prophecy, it wasn't something literal. It was like him just kind of like saying, curse it to you. You will be eaten by dogs if you die in the city. If you die in the field, birds are going to eat you. It was saying you will have a dishonorable death. I can't say that enough because that's proof that these scriptures have been tampered with, right? All right, no worries. Look, do what you want with the books, authors of ancient times, but we're going to undo this because we're not going to have people foaming at the mouth telling us that we're pseudo and wrong when they don't know what they're talking about. And it is clear that historians, Bible scholars, experts, and ourselves, darkest minds of the light, people who go in and break things down. I appreciate the presentation that God Energy did, and other people who say, you know what? We need to really look past the surface and see what's really going on here. And it's okay. It is okay. It doesn't mean that you don't love your God. It doesn't mean that you don't respect your holy book as something divine. It is, y'all, I'm one of the pseudos. It's connected to your divine consciousness. It connects you with others in the universal mind of God, but it does not hold your spirituality. Your spirituality is inserted into these books and these symbols and these different relics and talismans and all these spiritual things. You put your spirituality into it. Yeah, you do. I always say you don't put yourself into the book, but you do put your energy into something. And also, by the way, all this stuff that said, oh, evil, it's magic is evil. That's why we don't mess with these gods. Obviously, things were happening for these people when they did these rain dances and they called on the Most High, or they called on any of these gods that they said they called on. Things happened for them. So these invocations, these curses, all of these rituals, these sayings, these prayers, these everything that you can think of, there is power in that. Yes, I'm showing my pseudo side. I'll get back into the scholarship. But what I'm trying to say to people who are so worried that when we show this information that things have been manipulated and changed, to a certain extent, that shouldn't do anything to your relationship with God, unless your relationship with God is only about these books. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. Excuse me. Well, I can't do anything for you on that. We're going to show the truth, and you're just going to have to deal with it and get on a higher level. So let's go to 1 Kings. I want to show you again this particular prophet going to another king. Before Baasha, he goes to Jeroboam. Remember, Jeroboam is the one that said, hey, guys, I don't want you going to Judah to worship. I need you to stay here in Israel and Northern Kingdom, and I will set up some, I'll do some things for you over here. You can have worship over here. I got these golden calves. I got everything ready for you. All right. So don't go down there. So Ahijah is a prophet, and he tells Jeroboam, oh, you playing too much, Jeroboam. I'm going to tell you what the Lord's going to do to you. And let's see what he says. We saw what Jehu said to Baasha. Let's see what Ahijah says to Jeroboam. Him that dieth of Jeroboam in the city shall the dogs eat. Did you see that? Once again, this is, so I'm not, by the way, I want to let you know, I'm not saying absolutely everything has been redacted. Everything has been changed. I'm just showing you certain things. This isn't what I'm talking about when I talk about redaction or redactors or changing or manipulating. These things are common. This was original. I'm going to go out on a ledge and say this is original, which it is. How do we know? Because biblical scholars say it is, and you can hear it in the language. You can hear it's another curse. It's another prophet telling him this is what God's going to do to you. It is also extra biblical for that region, that part of the world in ancient times. It was a curse, a regular curse for people to say, may the dogs eat you in the city, and the birds eat you in the field, because you're going to have a shameful death. No one's going to bury you. No one's going to honor you. This is something that was just common. It wasn't literally saying dogs are going to eat you. During that time, we're talking about 9th and 8th century BCE. Hundreds of years later, when these exilic authors, these Deuteronomists went back, they said, oh, you know what? I wanted to really get eaten by a dog. Okay, put it in there. Write it up. Put it on in there. Have her put some makeup on too. Try to make herself look cute. That's what happened. They inserted that part and they said, dogs actually ate her, and that's historical. No, dogs didn't eat her. Was she probably assassinated? Yeah. I could see that happening. Who knows? Because there's no extra biblical proof of her. Like, we can't find. There is some stuff. I mean, I take that back. I got to remember what it's called. It's like a little, oh my gosh. I'll get it. I don't want to say, but it might not be of her. But my point is, Ethbaal, her father, and Ahab are definitely existed. And you know how it is. You marry your daughter to a different country for political reasons and allies. So anyway, so as you see, it says, him that dieth of Jeroboam in the city shall dogs eat. Him that dieth in the field shall the fowl of the air eat. The Lord hath spoken it. So we had Ahijah cursing Jeroboam, who had an awesome life, had a great procession when he passed away peacefully, had a great honorable funerary procession. No dogs ate him. It was just a saying. Elijah, you thought that was it? No, Elijah actually, another prophet. Let me just see. I think it's 21. Elijah says it too, if I'm not mistaken. Now, nobody's saying this to JezeBAAL. We're talking to the kings, like, oh, king, you are playing with God. And guess what? No one's going to honor you. You're going to have a shameful death. That was like, oh, I can't believe he said that, So Elijah says that to Ahab somewhere in here. Huh. Oh, okay. Is it? Thus saith the Lord, this is verse 19, chapter 21, 1 Kings, chapter 21. And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, thus saith the Lord, hast thou killed and also taken possession? And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith the Lord, in the place where the dogs lick the blood of Naboth, shall dogs lick thy blood of even thine. Also, oh, I'm glad I saw that. Let's go up one. I want to show you something. Let me show you guys something. Let me show you something. Let me show you this story. This is a story where he supposedly wants something from Naboth, who lives in Jezreel, right? The Jezreelite. And so according to the story, my friends, because this is inserted, this is not the original text. I assure you, not just me, but biblical scholars. Okay. This is the Deuteronomist historians, the Deuteronomist authors who changed this. How do we know? Because there are inconsistencies. Let me see if I can find it. I'm gonna go up here. Okay. Now, you know they live in Samaria, right? So it says, sons of Belial. Let me see. So they took him out. He's in Jezreel, right? And they take him out and they stone him. How is the garden? I'm trying to find it where it says the garden is next door to the palace. How is that possible? And then it says Naboth was stoned. It says verse 13 in 1 Kings chapter 21. And there came, okay, let me get to the part where it says Naboth did blaspheme God. Then they carried him, listen to this. Then they carried him forth out of the city and stoned him with stones that he died. Right? Then they sent Jezebel saying, okay, Naboth's dead. And then they gave him, then Ahab took possession of Naboth's vineyard. Look how they make him look like he's weak. Also, this is all inserted. This is written after this was basically changed. The original, this was put in here saying, oh, he arose because he was just pouting on his bed. And Naboth, they said, oh, come on, get it now. Oh, thank you. I couldn't do it myself. But in extra biblical information, you see he was a very strong king. He was a powerful king. I'm talking about Ahab of Israel. But in this, it makes it like he's weak. That's what they wanted to show. Oh, look at this weak dude. He's letting the people worship all these other gods. And he's letting his woman run him. Dang, he can't even do it himself. That's the narrative that's being painted by the Deuteronomistic authors, by the Deuteronomistic redactors. All right. And it came to pass when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, he rose up and he got the vineyard, right? The Jezreelite. And the word of Lord came to Elijah, the Tishbite, saying, okay, this is it. Verse 18, arise, go down to meet Ahab. Okay, oh yeah. So this is the Lord talking to him. Go down and meet Ahab, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there. And I have to double check on this, but how is Jezreel where he got killed? And remember it said the vineyard was in Jezreel? And now the vineyard is in Samaria. Somebody help me out with that. Because every time I read that, I always think, how is it now? It was Jezreel. Now it's in Samaria. There's more. Behold, and I could be wrong, but I don't know. I don't think that I'm wrong about that, but who knows? So it says, and thou shalt speak unto him, saying, thus saith the Lord, hast thou killed and also taken possession? And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, thus saith the Lord. So this is supposed to be Elijah giving a prophecy to God's telling him what to say to Ahab. Remember that Jezebel supposedly set this all up, but let's listen. In the story, did he know she was going to go kill him? No. She said, get up and eat. I'll take care of it. But I'm telling you, these are the things that are inconsistent. Verse 19 says, thou shalt speak unto him, saying, thus saith the Lord, have you killed and also taken possession, and thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith the Lord, in the place where dogs lick the blood of Naboth, shall dogs lick thy blood, even thine. So there it is. He's saying, oh, you are gonna get cursed. However, the dogs didn't lick the blood of Naboth. He was stoned, and I'm sure, it doesn't say anything about him getting the blood licked up or that he was left there just shameful. It doesn't say anything. That wasn't the tradition. Once they were stoned, their families came, pick them up, and buried them. Now, how do I know that? Because they can't leave dead bodies out. It would be violating, it'd be putting a risk of violating Torah. Get it? And Ahab said to Elijah, Hast thou found me, O mine enemy? And he answered, I have found thee because thou hast sold thyself to work evil in the sight of the Lord. These are all, and these are the, this was added later, hundreds of years later to the text. Behold, I will bring evil upon thee, and I will take away thy posterity, and I will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel. So he's given a curse to him. But guess what? Dogs, when you see the thing about dogs licking his blood later on, that's also inserted to go along with this. I got to find it. I can't, I think it's after he gets shot with the arrow. Here it is, 24. Him that dieth of Ahab in the city, the dog shall eat, and him that dieth in the field shall the fowls of the air eat. It's just, there's that curse again. But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up. By the way, he asked the Lord for mercy, and then God gives him mercy. I got to find it. Oh, here it is, 27. And it came to pass when Ahab heard those words that he rent his clothes and put sackcloth on and upon his flesh, and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went softly. He was repentant. And the words of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Listen up. Seest thou how Ahab humbled himself before me? Because he humbled himself before me, I will not bring evil in his days, but his son's days will I bring the evil upon his house. Dun, dun, dun. So see, he's like, oh, so the dogs aren't going to lick his blood. But then later on, it says something about the blood ran down off of I can't remember, the dog where they were washing him, and the dog started licking the blood. It's because of these inconsistencies are because of what's been added. There's so much more, but I'll have to bid you adieu. It's actually been 2 whole hours now, darling. So thank you so much for being here. This is just another one in the ether put out there, and I'm just going to keep doing them. Going to keep on going. I showed the inconsistencies just now. Yes, Jezebel did not get eaten by dogs. It was added to the story. And that's about it. I just want to say thank you for joining. Peace to everybody. Have a wonderful, I have to get up early. Have a wonderful day tomorrow. And yeah, the sons of God, Israel worshipped. They were polytheistic. And then when they did get to the deserts during the Exodus, yes, they said, don't worship those other gods. I'm not saying, oh, come on, you guys should worship other gods. I'm showing you that they always revered, acknowledged, appealed to other gods from start to finish. Even Christ says, Elwa, lama sabachthani. Elwa is, and some people say Eloi. That is El Roi, which is, by the way, El Ra, which is, as scholars say, to the numbskull who's trying to come against me, that was a pun in the literature to play on the god Ra, because she's a she's written as a Kemetic, an Egyptian woman, Hagar, in Genesis chapter 16, verse 13. She says, does the God who sees now watch over me, the one who I watched over? Why would she say she watched over that God? Because in the heavenly cow, Sekhmet, who was first Hathor, Hagar, I've compared her to Hathor, Het Heru. The eye of Ra, so right eye, is sent to earth to avenge and protect the god Ra. People were making fun of him and plotting against him. He takes his eye out, which is the feminine side of him, his daughter, or you could say Het Heru, Hagar. He removes the eye, sends it to earth. It becomes Sekhmet, the vicious lioness goddess. She slaughters almost the whole world. And then Ra says, okay, I got to stop you. And he stops her pretty much by giving her some fake red beer. Not fake, it's real red beer, but it's supposed to be, she thinks it's blood. It's the story in the heavenly cow. And she gets back to being the peaceful Het Heru Hathor again. Hagar is the equivalent when we talk about syncretizing, like, okay, who's this goddess or who's this person representing? Hagar represents Hathor, Het Heru. And that is why she tells Ra in the desert, by the way, she tells the Most High Yahweh, but she calls him El Roi or El Ra, which means the God who sees, not the God seeing me. It's the God who sees. So it's a play on words. It's a pun that many ancient spiritual writers of ancient divine texts, they would do that often. They did it with, of course, and Sumerian text, the Canaanite text, all texts. There's a play on words, and it's very common in the Bible to find. That's how I found it. Even if it's a pun, though, it is a veneration. It's not a condemnation of the God that sees, which is Ra, the eye of Ra. It is compared to or similar to the heavenly cow. And also the God of Ra is the sun. It's a circle with a dot in the middle, which means sun. Ra means sun, but Ra doesn't just mean sun. Ra means many things. All right. The God Ra was the all-seeing, omnipotent, omniscient God that watched all from the sky and had all power, gave life, and also took life. So when you hear the story of Hagar, she's in the blazing desert alone. Very interesting, isn't it? So thank you so much for tuning in. That's it. Peace. I'm going to play my song, and then I'm going to talk to you all tomorrow. Most High willing. All right. Peace to the darkest minds of the light. To everyone who's stuck with this and anyone who's hearing it on the playback. It's a lot of reading that I did, but I will force myself to do a part 2. So don't think, but my point was that there's scholarship behind people examining this text. It's not just like we just don't have to go by what I say or what somebody else in this community of teachers says. You can look around and do your research, and it's important. It is important because you don't just want to be that person that just believes everything you hear that comes from the Bible or anything else, any other book. And you also don't want to be that person who just because somebody who's really smart and somebody who's really popular says, oh, it's not true. Then you go, oh, because he said it's not true, it must not be true. You have to do your own research. Study to show thyself approved. That is the Bible. That's scripture. All right. So peace and love, peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. Trying to find my, oh, here it is. Peace.
Good looking now, keep getting clout. This is what it's about. We love teaching. There is no time. They programmed your mind. Construction blind. We not sleeping. Come join the love, come join the fun, and call it education. Let's get profound. Let's uncover all of the deep arcane things. Good looking out.